G'day guys and welcome back to another Stormgate video. In this one, I have a bunch of hidden mechanics, or at least mechanics that you might not be aware of, to help you in your Stormgate games and help you understand the matchups better. So without further ado, let us just jump right on in. So the first thing is something that you might not expect if you've come from StarCraft 2, and that is that repairing is free. Now in a game like StarCraft 2, if you were to select your SCVs and get them to repair a building or a unit, then you wouldn't be able to do that infinitely. It costs money to do, essentially the cost of the unit over time. But in this game, in Stormgate, repair is 100% free. The only amount of money that you are losing is the mining time. So never ever feel bad about using repair. It doesn't cost you any money, the mining time loss is minimal at best, so really just go for it. But this leads into another one, and something that a lot of people miss, and that is that the dogs are also mechanical. Now the scouts in the game, they do look like biological units, but they're actually mechanical and therefore can be repaired. So early on in the game, if the dog takes a lot of damage, then heal it with a bob, repairing it. Or put a bob in a bob turret and it will also heal it back up because it's mechanical units. And in the same line of thought, you might have actually thought that the medtech, I mean it's in the name, but you might have thought that the medtech was just biological, when in fact it is also mechanical, meaning that it can be repaired. You can also use nanoswarm on it, because that only affects mechanical units. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now another thing that has come from StarCraft 2 is the walling mechanics. For the most part, walling works exactly like in StarCraft 2, where if you have a 1 hex covering each other, then there will be a full wall. However, there's actually a really interesting bug, I think, in the recent version, where for some reason, Lancers have gone on a diet. They were able to fit through these 1 hex gaps without any problem at all, and this sort of gap is too closed for even dogs. So Lancers, you can fit them through these gaps in your opponent's full walls, and you can really catch them off guard, so keep that in mind. The next part about walling is that there are big and small units. Units like Atlas, Vulcan, even Brutes are bigger than usual. And some wood lines you cannot get through with these big units. This also applies to your walls as well, so just keep that in mind. There's smaller units like dogs, gaunts, even Lancers, yes they're small, and bigger units. And they both have different sort of pathing. Now the third hidden mechanic is something that is never talked about, and maybe I should have included this in my economy video, but it's that you want to place your command posts and your shrines 90 degrees to the Luminite mine, not diagonal. In fact, diagonal is the worst place that you can possibly build your town hall. When you build them in this location, you're essentially losing 20 to 25% mining efficiency. And if you think about it, that is a lot just from misplacing your building. So make sure you correctly place it. On most maps, there's 1 or 2 places where it's okay. In some, there's only 1 location that is ideal, and usually you'll be able to figure it out. Now, another thing that you might not have known in this game is that trees are destroyable. Now, you might have thought that this was the case for the Magmadon, because that's a really obvious ability that destroys trees. Same with the Vulcan Dash, or an Atlas shooting down trees. All of this can destroy the trees and allow you to expand to your third base on the high ground on Broken Crown, for example. But did you know that it only takes 2 attacks from workers to also destroy trees? If you've been watching any of the pro games, you'll see this quite often, with back sneak attacks into people's bases on Broken Crown. People will sneak in dogs, people will attack in with brutes and gaunts. It's a really effective technique. And also if you just want to take that base, grab a bunch of workers, they'll massacre down the forest, and you'll be able to expand there really quickly. Now the next couple of things have to do with why the Vanguard Bio Ball is so unbeatable in late game. Why is it so tanky? Why does it never seem to die? Now of course, a lot of the abilities for Bio increase the movement speed, so you're able to get in and out and kite more effectively, and this keeps your Bio Ball a bit more healthy. But also, one thing that is often forgotten is that Lancers actually have a passive that decrease all damage dealt to them by 3. So this is a huge nerf to units that have low damage but attack really quickly, like a Gaunt. I believe it also works on the Gaunt bounce as well. So this is why Lancers are just so very tanky. They're not taking much damage at all. The other thing with the Lancer is that because of this passive, it actually doesn't take damage from Infest. Infest does damage over time. I believe it's about 10% max HP, but the Lancer is not taking this damage whatsoever. Perhaps you could consider this a bug and it'll be changed in the future version, but this is the number one reason why Lancers are just so very, very tanky. But you might be noticing that there's also another time period where your bio units are getting really, really tanky for some reason. Not a lot of people know that when you heal a unit with the medtech, it actually gains 25 armor, and 25 armor is a lot. Let me explain armor in this game really quickly for you. If a unit was to have 100 armor, you can consider that as having 100% effective HP, or therefore, it's roughly dealing about half damage. If something was to have 200 armor, which is what the rampart gives, the building would essentially have 200% effective HP, and this is how the damage calculations are done. So 25 armor being granted by a spammable medtech heal on every single one of your lancers, every single one of your exos is huge, and it goes a long way to explaining why the Vanguard Bible is just unkillable. But of course, being unkillable is not the only thing that makes the Vanguard Bible, especially versus Infernal late game, so powerful. It's the fact that there is unit veterancy. Now the way this works is when a unit is around other units that are dying, you will gain experience. If a unit kills another unit, it will gain the most experience, and the rest is shared with the group around it. So, Exos are killing lots of fiends across the game, a lot of gaunts and brutes, and they're constantly gathering experience and leveling up. But how important is this? Well, there's 3 levels that you can get, and for every level, you gain 10% attack damage. That is huge. Every unit in the Vanguard arsenal, even the Bob, can gain this buff. But not only that, you're also gaining HP per level. For the Exo, you gain 30 HP per level, meaning that a full champion level Exo is dealing plus 30% damage and has 90 more HP. Another reason why it's so tanky and why it does so much damage. But now let's have a look at the Infernal Macro mechanics, and I want to talk about the charge system. You can sort of think of this as Warp Gate for Protoss, combined with the Lava mechanic for Zerg. Each building can have a maximum of 3 charges, and for any production building that builds units, it takes 35 seconds for 1 charge to accumulate. For your shrine, this also works on a charge system, but it only takes 17 workers. So this means that you are building a worker every 17 seconds for Infernal, whereas for the Bobs from Vanguard, it actually takes 20 seconds. This can be one reason why the Infernal Macro game also spirals as the game goes forward, because you just have so many imp charges. But I do wonder about this very next one, if you guys noticed it. And that is that the Infernal race actually spawns with 1 more worker. Did you notice it? You actually start the game with 9 workers. Now, one reason this might be the case is that for the Infernals, when they build buildings, you instantly lose a worker. So the current most popular build at the moment is to build a Conclave or an Iron Vault straight away, so you lose the worker immediately, and that's fair enough. But you actually are also starting with 1 charge on your shrine. So 1 second into the game, the Infernal player is already up 2 workers compared to the Vanguard. What does the Vanguard get in return for this? They get the Scout. That is essentially the trade-off. You get free scouting at the moment, and I'm sure this is going to change over time, so do not complain too much if you're not too happy with this. I think it will iterate a lot more as we go forward. But what do you think? Which is more valuable? Having an extra worker at the start, in fact 2 with the extra shrine charge, or having the scouting dog? I'd be really interested to hear you guys' thoughts. Now the final hidden mechanic that once is seen, you will never ever forget ever again, is that the Atlas, the Vanguard siege unit, can be picked up in evacs. And I don't mean picked up when they're walking around like normal. I mean like when they're deployed, when they're sieged up. You can pick up and lift 2 sieged Atlases and move them around the map, making them excellent harass tools and allowing you to reposition them in fights. Combine this with the fact that you could use the shield on the evac can drop a mine. It is a really powerful harassment tool, so make sure you guys check that out and try it. It is really powerful, especially in the Vanguard mirror. So I hope you found this video extremely useful, and maybe you learned some things that you didn't know. If you enjoyed this video and want to know more about Stormgate's economy, make sure you try this video here. It will be really informative.